Welcome to this session on referencing, one of 3 sessions being delivered to you online this term. I'm Liz Osman, the Fellow Librarian. By the end of this session, you should have a better understanding of what is required in referencing and how to make a start on it. You will also know about possibilities around using a reference manager to organise your references. Unfortunately, there's no one right way to reference. There are lots of different referencing styles you can use, which will differ in how the references are laid out on the page, the punctuation, and so on. Whichever style you use, the purpose is the same: to acknowledge wherever in your essay you are using someone else's ideas and to provide a reader with enough information that they can look at the excerpt you're referring to. Referencing also means creating a bibliography to accompany your work, giving the full details of everything you've cited. It's always tempting to leave referencing to the end, but it's much easier to do it as you go along and leaves you with far less of a challenging and boring task to do just before handing in. The most common styles being used across Cambridge are Harvard, APA, and MHRA, but you might also come across Vancouver, Chicago, and other styles that are specific to a subject, such as Oscola for law. There are a number of departments that recommend more than one style, some that have no preference at all, and some that leave supervisors to decide. If you're in a subject where you're doing papers for different departments, you may well be writing essays with 2 different referencing styles simultaneously. You just need to make sure, obviously, that you're using the right one. There's quite a lot of online help available with referencing, and the University LibGuides are a great source of information for your faculty or department requirements. I'm going to give you a very brief rundown of what the 3 main referencing styles in Cambridge are and how you can reference different types of material using them. Firstly, let's look at Harvard. Harvard, which is also known as author-date system, uses inline references, which means wherever you quote or refer to something you've read, you put the author and the year. You'll also put the page numbers if you're quoting or if you're referring to a specific passage. So in this example, the top one, you mention Cormac by name, so you just put 1994 in brackets. The bottom one, you haven't mentioned the author in the text, so in your bracket, you put Cormac 1994, and then the specific pages that you're referencing. As well as the short inline reference, you need to put the full details in your bibliography, and this is what the style looks like for Harvard. These will then be ordered alphabetically by author surname, making it easy to find the full details of any reference from your work. However, you're very likely to reference other things aside from books as well. Sometimes you might have read a quotation or idea from a secondary source, perhaps the original is out of print or in a language that you don't speak. In that case, you would put an inline citation like this one at the top, acknowledging where you read it rather than pretending to have read the original. And then in your bibliography, you would put the full details of the actual item that you'd read. So for the secondary citation, Brown 1966 cited in Bassett 1986. If you need to reference websites, e-journals are a little bit different and we'll come on to them, then you'll follow a similar process to books. The inline reference is still author and date, though in this example, there's no specific named person as the author, so the author has been put as NHS as a corporate body. In the bibliography, you should include the web address and the date on which you accessed it. Most journal articles these days are for journals you found online. So rather than print journals, I'm going to show you an e-journal reference. The inline reference is just the same as for the book, with the author and date, but the bibliography contains the author, year, article title, and journal title, alongside the information on where you accessed it and when. The APA, or the American Psychological Association referencing style, is also very popular here in Cambridge. It's often used in the social sciences particularly. It is very similar in style to Harvard, again using inline references in brackets. The second example here shows how you can reference a number of studies, articles, or books, all written by the same person. Notice also the A and B next to 2001. This indicates 2 separate items published in the same year and allows for easy differentiation as to which one you're referencing. The APA bibliography is also very similar to Harvard. As is the secondary citation, though note that the wording in brackets is very slightly different. This time it says as cited in Nicholson 2003. To be correctly using a particular reference style, you really do need to watch that kind of detail. The website example is also similar in the information provided, though it is formatted differently. Also, in this instance, I've given you an example where there is no author, not even a corporate one like the NHS, and also no discernible date. So instead, in this case, you would put the title of the web page in lieu of the author and ND in brackets to indicate no date. And finally, e-journals in APA are also pretty similar. Where you see the highlighted text at the bottom that looks like nonsense, you would probably find a web address in the Harvard example. However, if an article has this thing which is called a DOI, which you would find either at the beginning or end of the article or on the web page that gives the details of the article just before you open the full text up, then you should put that instead. The reason being, and the reason you should usually include information on when you access the page, is that websites are updated, articles get taken down, links might change, and free stuff might end up behind a paywall. The DOI is a unique identifier which can help with tracing online articles if they move. And finally, we have the MHRA style, which is the last one that I'm going to highlight. MHRA is a different style of referencing using footnotes rather than inline references. So after each quotation or reference to a text, you'll insert a footnote, which is something Word will do for you fairly easily. And you will put your full reference at the bottom of the page. In the example here, reference 1 will be the first time that Curtis has been referenced anywhere in this essay. Subsequent times, you would be able to use a shorter form of reference in the footnote. If you end up referencing the same thing twice or more in a row, then you can use the wonderful Latin word ibid to indicate that the reference is to the same thing as the one directly above. Your MHRA bibliography will look very similar to your footnotes, just without the page information or final full stop. For a secondary citation, you will always give the details of the book that you've read rather than the original you're referencing. So just some acknowledgement of the original source or author in the main body of your writing is enough. The footnote and reference for a website is very similar to the previous styles we've seen, as is the e-journal. So I'm not going to labor the point any further. Now, we've just touched on 3 styles really briefly and some of the more common items you might be referencing, but there are plenty more resources you might have used like theses, films, blog posts, Twitter conversations, and many more. Online, you will be able to find guidance on how to reference any of them within a particular reference style. So don't despair or leave them out, just make time to look at how to create your reference correctly. Even if I've not specifically shown the referencing style that your department uses, you'll see that the basics are all quite similar. But if there's one thing I wish I'd had when I was at university, it would be a reference management app that will do a lot of the hard work for you. You can even create your bibliographies automatically. There are a lot of tools available, all of which do a similar thing with various features. At a basic level, a reference manager is a database of your references, which will allow you to easily export them into your essays. Zotero and Mendeley are 2 of the most popular free options and used throughout the university. I'll show you a brief demonstration of Zotero in a minute to give you an idea of how it works. Once you create an account, with either one, you can set up sharing groups and your references can be synced so they can be accessed from anywhere. The main difference really between these 2 is the interface, and you'll probably prefer one over the other. However, there are some other feature differences, and it's worth having a look at both to understand which you prefer. Another option is EndNote, which isn't available for free, but can be used on all of the MCS machines across the university. This website has a large table showing how the different features of a variety of reference managers compare. So if you do want to do some further research, I suggest that as a good place to start. Okay, so I'm now going to try to demo Zotero for you. So hopefully this is going to work. So let me just close that down, and here we are. Right. I've created a brief library of sources here in Zotero, which are all related to folk song. If I want to create a new collection, I can create a new folder up here on the top left. Some of the items I've saved have attachments included. These that have an arrow, if you expand that, there you'll find the text. Zotero will quite often save the PDF of a journal article or similar, which is quite helpful, but it will also save the web address, so you can go back to it anyway. So for this particular item over here, you'll see there's the URL. Bear in mind though that if you click the link from here, you won't be recognised as being from Cambridge, so may need to still log in to get access to the article again. There are two main ways to add items to your library. The first is to use an extension to add items as you find their details online. I'm using the Firefox extension. So if I go to Firefox and here's iDiscover, I can search for an item. So broadside ballads to further my folk song research. Search for that. Find an item that I want to save. So this second one down looks great. I click into it. And then up on the top right, I can click on the Zotero link on my toolbar. In this case, Zotero has recognized that this item is a book. And so the icon has changed to a book. So I just click that icon and it will save, and I could choose from that drop down a different folder if I wanted to. It is slightly irritating, frankly, that Zotero changes its icon. I'd much prefer if there was just a Z up there, but there we go. If we go back to Zotero now, this is my new entry that I have just saved from iDiscover. You can also add items manually to Zotero, which is sometimes useful or quicker. I use it particularly if I need to reference a chapter in an edited book. It's the chapter title and author that need to be added, and finding that information online to click will take longer usually than just adding it manually. So to add a new item of any sort, just click the green plus button and select what the item is. If you go down to more, you'll see there's an awful lot of different types of item you can add, but in this case, we're going to choose book section. Then you just need to go through the fields and fill in the details. You don't need to fill every field in, but try to ensure you put everything that should appear in your bibliography. So here I'm going to add the chapter title and author, the book title, edition, place of publication, publisher, date of publication, and the page number of the sections. That will satisfy Harvard referencing for my bibliography, because that's the type of referencing I tend to use. So the title could just be, I can't type by the way, so I apologize for this. Folk song, author, Smith, John. The book title, folk song in England. Go down to second edition, published in Oxford University Press. You'll see that if Zotero has other entries, it will suggest them, so that can save time as well. I can just select Oxford University Press rather than type it in again. The book's from 2001, and the pages I've used is 127 to 146. So there we go, that's entered now. As you can see, it didn't take very long, even with my very poor typing. You can add a Zotero plugin to Word, and you can then use that to add citations as you go along. So if we go into Word, here is my terribly insightful essay so far. I need to add another reference. So I click where it is I need to add my reference. So after more insightful comments, I need a reference. Up here in Word, you'll see I now have a Zotero tab. If I click through to that and then press Add Edit Citation, it opens up this Zotero box, and I can then search for the title or the author of the item. So I want something that's by Vaughan Williams. So as you start typing, it will come up with suggestions, both, as you can see, cited ones, so ones you have already cited in your essay, and also ones that are in your library. So it's actually the Penguin Book of English Folk Songs that I want. And there it is. If I then click into that further, I can also put a page number if I want to. And there's my reference. I can also auto-generate my bibliography, which will add all the citations I've used in this piece of work. So if I generate one here now, here you can see the full details of the references I've used. So to do that, go back up to the Zotero tab and just press Add Edit Bibliography, ensuring the cursor is in the right place. So there we go. There's my bibliography of my 3 references so far. However, bibliography is only as good as the information that's inserted. So whilst you've gathered the information from online, it may not have gone into the fields in Zotero in quite the way you wished, which will make your bibliography formatting wrong. If you look at the top book from the bibliography by Okamore, you'll see that Okamore is referenced at the beginning and was at the end, but actually I've corrected that one already. If you look at the second entry, Ralph Vaughan Williams, you'll see that the way the authors are written looks a little odd, and also that at the end, the authors are mentioned again. Well, that's not right to have the authors mentioned twice. So this entry needs fixing in Zotero. So if we pop back into Zotero to find the Penguin Book of English Folk Songs, which is here, to fix it, we just remove the author information that's come into the title, and you'll find that will happen quite a lot if you bring things in from iDiscover. And then we also need to just tidy up how the author has been put here. So you'll very quickly get the hang of this. I'm making a really ham-fisted job of sorting this out, so I apologize because I'm making it look a lot harder than it is. Basically, you will do this a few times and you will very quickly get the hang of what you're doing. Okay, so I've removed the authors from the title and I have sorted out their entries here so they look a bit more normal and they're credited as editors. So if I then just click away from there, I go back to Word. I try to unhighlight everything. There we go. I just press refresh. You'll see that now that final reference has changed and looks a lot more correct. So Zotero is useful not just for when you're writing essays, but to more generally keep track of what you've been reading. You can create loads of folders to categorize, and it's possible to put an item into more than one folder too, so you don't have to worry about where's the most appropriate place for it to be. There is a storage limit in Zotero, after which there's an annual subscription charge. However, for 2 gigabytes, that's $20 at the moment. And the basic storage will actually get you quite a long way, and certainly through, say, a dissertation. If you'd like more help with referencing or Zotero in particular, please just get in contact with the library. Your faculty and department libraries may also have resources or training available to you. Don't forget the other online sessions available looking at plagiarism and literature searching and assessing sources. Thanks for listening.